Hey folks, 13 here, and we're about to tell a story. Comment, like, subscribe, participate. Always remember to share. Do the important stuff that keeps this show going and this channel growing. And enjoy. And this is a new series for us, a new thing. We're going to be doing some storytelling, and I figured we would start with a true story from my past. I actually wanted to tell the story of how I first told a story. It was at a campfire at a party, but as I considered that story and I thought more about, what I wanted to do for the first episode, I realized that there was another story that I should tell. And, joining us in studio here is A.M. Redwood
Hello.
from Gamerwood on YouTube. And, we hang out and we play games a lot. And he's heard a little bit of this story, but I don't think he's ever heard this much. So, anyway, with no further ado, this is The Black Thing. Years ago, a couple of decades, a little more than that, really, I was riding in the car with my brother. I remember that it was in the fall. It was that time when it's getting cold enough that you can't have the window down all the way anymore, but you still want to have it down for the memories of summer just past. And I was ribbing my brother. We were buddies. We hung out. And I was trying to get him to tell me about the girl he would never tell me about. He told me about a lot of girls, a lot of women, but there was one he would never tell me about. Remember saying, "Dude, man, just tell me about her." He said, "There's some things that we never talk about." And a thing struck me, a memory struck me. Something that always kind of was in me, had a hold of me, never has let me go. And I said to myself in a very serious tone, some things we don't talk about. And I heard my tone echoed from my brother. We were just playing a second ago. We were just giving crap about, girls. But all of a sudden, everything was serious. He echoed that tone. He said, like the black thing. All the hairs stood up on the back of my neck. We'd never talked about it. In the house that I grew up in a small town in Washington State, there was something. It started, there's my blood running cold. It started when I was very young, and I always thought that it was the fancy of youth. But when I would walk up the stairs, I felt chased. When I was in my really early teens, the house burnt. We had a jewelry shop built into the house in the garage, and there was a fire in the jewelry shop, and it decimated the jewelry shop, and it took out some of the upstairs, and then the house was rebuilt. After that, that sense of going up and down the stairs, being chased, was so strong. And I even saw my brother run up and down stairs, and my parents moved their bedroom during the construction to downstairs because they didn't want to climb the stairs anymore. But I always suspected, though I've never discussed it with my mother, that they also felt a little creepy about the up and downstairs trip. But you never looked back to see what was chasing you. You just flew up or down the stairs. We talked about that, my brother and I. We talked about being chased up and down the stairs. And then I crossed a threshold that I was shocked to find myself crossing, and I said, "Do you know what was chasing you up and down the stairs?" And he said, "Yeah, the black thing." And then he told me about a night that he woke up and everything felt strange. He told me about walking through the house and feeling like he was being stalked. He said that feeling that you get as you go up and down the stairs, it was with him and it followed him. He talked about not being able to wake me up on the couch. He talked about the TV being static, but the static being strange. And then I crossed another threshold. I feel like I'm crossing those thresholds right now as we talk about this thing. I said, "Was it anything like time was stopped?" He just told me to shut up. He said, "Shut up. We're all done talking. Shut up." I said, "No, you told your story. I get to tell mine." It was okay to talk now because we didn't live in that house anymore. It was our first summer out of that house, really. Earlier that spring, we'd left it. The family had moved out of that house, all of us scattering to different directions. And so I said, "Remember the summer that I was dating, the girl?" And he went, "Yeah, lots of partying that summer." I said, "Yeah." So she stayed the night one night. I was young. That was a rare thing. We won't go into how young, and we won't go into the rarity of the thing. But yeah, she'd stayed the night. And I said, "I woke up and time was stopped." And he said, "Did it follow you around the house?" And I said, "Oh no. It was in the room." I woke up and she was sleeping next to me, and my dog was on the floor. I always kept my dog with me. Dogs are good things to keep with you. Dogs can protect you from the things that you should be protected from. It was odd. We were watching a show, her and I, when we fell asleep. The TV was static, but the static was frozen. It was static on the screen for sure, but it wasn't fuzzing. It wasn't moving. The clock, digital clock on the VCR, looked like it was painted in space. There was an unreal quality to it. My eyes adjusted to the darkness more. I perceived the shadow of the trees against the darkness of the sky. And they were oddly bent, as if in the midst of a breeze all things became constant, or as if time had somehow stopped. And that's when I became aware of it. I couldn't see it, but I could feel it. It was at the end of the bed. It was on the floor at the end of the bed. I felt silly. I was a teenager. You put away fancies like that as you get older. I reached down to wake my dog up. Just to have the dog up. I couldn't wake him up. For a horrified moment, I thought he was dead, but he was warm. And then my perception of the black thing raised. I I knew that it had gotten higher, and I looked into the darkness, and standing on the foot of the bed, on the wood of the foot of the bed, was a black thing, a darkness deeper than the darkness around it. It peered at me, darkness within darkness, standing in darkness. I tried to wake her up. I shook her. Fuck it. Who cares if I look like a scared moron? I shook her and she wouldn't wake up. Warm like the dog and completely unresponsive. And it dropped from the foot of the bed onto the bed itself. I felt its weight. I felt its cold. And it crept closer. And I panicked. There was nothing, there was nowhere, there was no one, nothing at hand. And it crept closer. And now I could feel it cold and its weight on my feet. And it just walked closer. In that still, time-stopped scene where she was next to me and warm and lifeless, and the dog was on the floor warm and lifeless, and the TV was painted in the room, and the digital clock was painted in the room, and nothing was real except the black thing, the blackness within the darkness that was creeping up my body, and the cold weight of it stood on my crotch now. I felt violated. Stood on my stomach now. My blood was cold and the terror was deep. And I reached out for the only thing I had. And I don't give a shit if you think it's creepy or if you think it's corny or if you think it's crap. Because at the time, I was not a religious person. I reached out to his name. I invoked Christ. I was brought up really young to believe, but I hadn't for a long time. It was one of many fairy tales, and I didn't have faith, real faith, not for years later, almost half a decade. Didn't go to church regularly for years after that, a year after that, but I invoked his name. I don't remember how. In my memories, I glorified his name, and I said, in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, you get back. And I'm sure that in reality, I muttered it, I stuttered it, I barely got it out in a whisper. But it fled. It fled. And it wasn't long after that we moved. It was at the end of that summer. Summer of partying and debauchery and craziness. Youth and girls and cars. And I didn't think about the black thing again. The greatest mercy that I was given is that I was able to live the last month or two in that house without being haunted by what had just happened. But I told it then. I told my brother. He wasn't surprised, and we never talked about it again. Through silent agreement. I've only seen the black thing once since then, though I live miles and miles and miles in towns from that house. It was a dream when I was in college, about a decade ago, a little less. I was walking into the old house, and it was different. It had been lived in by other people. It was worn in ways that it hadn't been worn in when we were there, and there were subtle changes. The furniture was different, the decorating was different. And I walked into it, and I was so intrigued by it being different. And I didn't go up the stairs. I didn't even think of it. I walked into the kitchen, and I reached up and I opened a cupboard, and in the cupboard stood the black thing, and it said, "Come back." And I slammed the cupboard, and I woke up, and I haven't talked about the black thing until now. So I hope you've liked this storytelling. It's something that I haven't done in years. It's something I did a lot in my youth around campfires and stuff. And not every story is a scary story. Some of them are romantic, some of them are sad, and some of them I haven't thought of yet. Some of them I'll tell you as they occur in my heart, and I really, as I translate them through my soul, and I really hope that that this is a good series, that you like it. I am terrified. It's like walking on a tightrope, and I hope you enjoy it. I've enjoyed it, and if everybody's copacetic, we'll keep doing it. Thanks so much for joining us, folks. Comment, like, subscribe, participate. Always remember to share. Do the important stuff that keeps this show going and this channel growing, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.